Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of MakeCode Arcade as part of our DreamSpace HomeSpace series. Joining me today is Corey.
Hi everyone.
And I'm Amanda. And in the background then we have some of our team to answer any questions that you might have during today's webinar. So as always, if you need to ask questions, pop them in. If you need to pause, please do put us on pause. All of the things we always say. And we're on episode 10 today, aren't we, Corey?
Yeah, mad. Time is flying.
Yeah, it's crazy, into double digits now. So we're really excited to get going and continue to work on our game from last week. Now, if you didn't save your game from last week, or if you don't have a file that helps you pick up where we left off last week, no problem. As always, you can find the coding file where we got to last week, basically up on our Wakelet. So if you go to aka.ms/HomeSpace files and you go into the arcade section, like the video is showing you here, in there you'll see just down the bottom, it's game 3, end of week 1. And if you go and download that file, and you'll see now I'm going to basically be importing that so that I pick up where we left off last week as well. So go on over there, get that file. If you need to pop us on pause now, do that so that you're basically starting at the same point that we are, so that you can kind of continue with the webinar. Okay, so I am going to hop out of here and we're going to go get going. Excited to see how we get on this week. So I'm straight into arcade here now, and there we go. And as you can see, I've no coding files because, like I'm saying, we're going to just basically make sure we start where we left off. So I'm going to import my file real quick, and I've just saved mine to my desktop. So I can just make sure if I go to my desktop here, and you can see there it is, game 3, week 1. There we go. Click OK, and I'm just going to import that, and we'll pick up. And what we asked you to do last week, Corey, wasn't it, was basically we did one enemy last week, which were our cars. So we remember we're trying to get Tweety, our duck, to cross the road and cross the river and stuff. So we did the road part kind of last week, where we had cars coming from both directions that we had to try and avoid. And we asked you now this week basically to create a new enemy that was on the water. Isn't that right, Corey?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think we said, well, I said mine was going to be a crocodile, but people at home could have picked their own. So I'm excited to know what they picked. Yeah,
exactly. You can kind of do whatever one you want, really. And one of the things we wanted to look at actually was to see if you could do this in JavaScript, because last week we actually toggled from blocks to JavaScript and back again. So the idea was if you could possibly try this in JavaScript, if not, no problem. So I'm going to do it in JavaScript now. But you might have done it in blocks, and that's fine. We'll toggle back and you'll see what it would look like in blocks anyway. And we'll go from there. So once we've done our first our new enemy, I suppose, for our water, we'll then look at other aspects of what we can add to the water too. So let's get going. Right, so we're going to, I'm just going to mute this over here so it doesn't make noise in my ear as I'm going. Toggle over to JavaScript because this is what we want you to do. And we were thinking, okay, this is going to be an enemy, and this enemy, like I said, is going to be on the water. Now, we've already created enemies, so there's a chance here for us not to have to write code from scratch. We can actually copy and paste the code if we need to, which is going to be handy. But like always, when we copy and paste the code, we need to actually make sure that we really check each line, because we're going to probably change different bits and bobs here as we go. Right, This seems to be taking a little while now.
We just have so much code.
Yeah, okay, we'll give it a second. Because if you remember especially the sprites, I suppose they take up quite a bit. We've kind of minimized them so they're out of the way. But okay, sorry, we'll try that again. I'm going to click JavaScript. Hey, okay.
Woohoo.
Just taking its time for me. Right, so I'm going to go down. Down. And we're going to look for our comments. Remember last week we talked about comments, Corey, and we talked about how handy they were. So
definitely.
We had 2 forward slashes and we can comment our code. Sorry, Corey, you're going to say something there?
No, I was just saying, yeah, commenting is really important, because for like times like this when we're looking for something, we can just look for our 2 forward slashes.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly now. And what's kind of good about this as well is I didn't just comment and say car. I said the direction, which is going to even help me even more now to speed up through this code, because we can think about the direction we want this new sprite to come in from. So when we move Tweety here across the road, God, there's a lot of cars on the road there now.
That'd be a hard one to cross.
Yeah. Okay. So Now, so when we get to here, we want our enemy, and we're going to do it as Crocodile, to come across from the right-hand side of the screen towards the left-hand side of the screen. So actually, when we're looking at our code here, even though it's not going to be a car, it is going to be from the right. So we can be clever about this and take this code, can't we, Corey?
Yes, great idea.
So I'm going to go ahead and take this code. Now, we will need to do something else in a second, but I'll talk about that. I'm just going to take this first. And I'm going to, on my keyboard, say Control and C to copy this. And then down here, I'm going to just go down, just give myself a bit of space. And I'm going to write a comment. So we'll say Croc from right. Okay. And I'm going to go in here. And I'm putting on the second line for a reason. We're going to actually need a line of code just before this starts, but we'll explain this in a second. So I'm going to put this in. Now, like we said, we see our pixel art come in a bit differently here. So it is a little minimized. I'm going to just minimize that for a second. Okay, so Crocodile from the right. Now, before we can talk about a crocodile, we actually need to create this crocodile. We need to actually declare what this is, don't we, Corey? Yeah. And this might have tripped maybe a couple of people up when they were doing their JavaScript. So hopefully it didn't. If you looked back up, you would have seen that with the other things like the cars and stuff, we actually said let, and we assigned it to be something. Am I right, Corey?
Yeah, we said let Tweety. So this time we'll say let Croc.
Yeah, we'll say let Croc. So let Croc, and we're going to say Sprite, and we're going to say, oh, that is not Sprite. Hold on now. Equals null. Okay.
Yeah.
So this line actually is basically important because we're actually now naming what our sprite is, which is going to be Croc. So that when we go in now to our if statement, when we're talking about Croc, the game knows what Croc is. It's a sprite. Okay, and we'll talk about the type of sprite and all that in a minute.
And I'd say that one line there, that one line of code, I'd say that was probably the hardest part of the home challenge, because it might have been something that people hadn't seen before. They actually would have had to look for it, whereas before we were used to just manipulating the code and stuff. So well done if you got that.
Yeah, really well done. And if you didn't, don't worry, because we even kind of forgot about this, didn't we, ourselves, Corey, until we realized there was a bug, and we were like, hold on. We realized, we never actually really clearly called out what Croc is. Okay, so that's important. Okay, let's go down to our next line. So game on update interval. So basically this is our on game update, and it's a half a second, 500 milliseconds. We're happy with that. I think we're going to leave that one. And then we did our percentage chance, and we talked about this last week. So basically how frequently are these things coming in? We did our cars last week at different percentage chances that they were coming in 60% or 50% of the time is what I picked. Remember, at home, you can manipulate these numbers whatever way you want, but that's what we chose for last week. Now, for this one, we're going to go with maybe 40% of the time, aren't we? Because we're going to have more on the water. We'll talk about this in a second, than crocodiles. Yeah. So what do you think, Corey?
Yeah, 40.
So we're going to change this from 60 to 40. Okay. And now that line is fine. We're happy with that. Okay. So then we go down. Now, this is not a car we're now talking about. We're talking about Croc, and it is case sensitive. And if you see there, I used an uppercase or a capital C. So I need to make sure I use this as well. Okay. So we're saying Croc is a sprite. Yeah. And create this image. We'll go and do that in a second. But just to double check, the sprite kind is an enemy. So we're happy with that one. Now, we need to just change the image. It's not a car. So at the moment, because we copy and pasted the code, the image is a car. If you look, we're going to click into our palette here, and you can see it's a car, which it's not. So we're going to have to quickly change this. Now, this is a bit of a painful process for a second. I'm going to book it, and it takes each section of color. So I'm going to be trying to be as quick as I can here, just to delete this. And we're going to start again on a blank kind of area.
I can't wait to see what your crocodile looks like.
Oh, Corey. So Corey picked a crocodile on purpose, I think, to see if she could challenge me, which this is going to be a challenge. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna, well, they've big mouths, don't they? So we'll do.
Looking good.
Oh, this is too big though. This isn't to scale. But anyway, look, I'm gonna just go with it. Let everyone at home just stay with me as best you can. This is kind of like a crocodile duck. Right, okay. It's like a mixture of an animal. And then we'll just do, maybe they have little kind of claws, don't they? if there's any crocodile experts online here now, you can let us know how we can improve this, or you can make sure yours is a lot better, which I'm sure it will be. And really, just for speed here and time, guys, I'm literally just going to give this an eye. Looks nothing like a crocodile, but anyway.
I think it's very good.
Thanks. You have to say that.
Give yourself enough credit.
It's like a lizard crocodile thing.
I like it.
Green blob, I would call this. But anyway, right, we'll go with it. So done. They're going to be tiny anyway. You'll see this in a second. So that's my line done here. So I've done my image. Okay, we've created our new Sprite image. Now, next line, this line here. Again, it says car, incorrect. So Corey, we're going to have to change this, aren't we?
Yep. And
so we're going to have
sure you have your case.
Yeah. And if you see, you might have said at home, you might have called your Sprite different up here. You might have said let something else, and you might have used all small letters, lowercase letters. So in that case, you're fine. But I, for some reason, decided to use an uppercase letter. So then I have to keep remembering, oh, that was a capital. Let's start when I named it. Now, we just double check this velocity and we have our X and our Y value. Now, we did, remember we copied and pasted this for a reason. This was the car from the right, so it should be correct. But just to be sure and make sure everyone at home understands, minus 50 on X is correct, because that means the speed and the direction is going to be from this side of the screen, the right-hand side, towards the left will be negative values. So it is going to be minus 50 because we're going in this direction. And obviously Y is 0 because we're not talking about up and down, we're talking about left to right. So that's fine. Next one down. Okay. So this is going to be, we have a bit going on here, Corey, don't we?
Yeah, we're going to have to change a bit here now.
Yeah, because this is when we're talking about the tiles. Now the cars were on the road. We have a different kind of placeholder that we want the crocodiles to be on, okay? So we're going to say tiles dot place on random tiles. So we're going to change this one first of all, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay. And then we're going to change this. So I'm going to actually delete this here about the vehicle. I'm going to bring, I'm actually going to delete all of this as far as Croc, okay? And instead in here, I'm going to say my tiles, because we did create a set of tiles last week, if you remember, when we built our tile map. And then I'm going to add a dot because I need to select which tile I want. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't tell us this was your green tile, this was your blue tile, but we know from trial and error and practicing this before we came online that our blue tile is actually tile 3. But you guys there might be an error here depending on how you set them up. Am I right, Corey?
Yeah.
So I've clicked tile 3 because we know from just doing this before we went online, this is what it was. You might need to just play around with that a little bit and see. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now, next one down. So that's that one done. Next one down, we have again, we're going to change this to Croc, X and 200. So remember, this was us setting our Croc's position before they kind of came in on top of a blue random tile. So 200, remember, was because on our screen, we started 0 on X and over here is actually 160. So if we say 200, that's kind of off the screen and then they'll randomly come in from the side. So we're happy with that one, Corey, aren't we?
Yep.
And then last but not least, we are going to change this to Croc from car. And we are happy for them to stay destroying on the wall when they reach the other wall, aren't we?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, now that should work. So if I check, my brackets have all been, so I have my closing brackets here because literally a bracket missing causes an error. So that should be fine. So let's just refresh our game and just see how we get on here and just check that we have some crocodiles randomly appear, and then we'll talk about what happens with them now in a second. Okay, Tweety, calm down now. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Well, nothing's going to happen. Oh, actually, sorry, we have to do that. Yeah. My bad. Something will happen. We'll talk about that in a second. But you've seen there, it came in. It doesn't look like a crocodile. We kind of assumed that was going to happen because of my terrible drawing there. But we've seen it's coming in from the right to left. We're happy. It's all good. Okay. Corey, anything to add there? Are we happy enough?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. Right. So now that we have a crocodile, Corey, we want the duck, even though I suppose ducks can swim, obviously, but we want the duck to have some way or some different way of transporting themselves, bar swimming, safely across the water, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. And I think in crossy roads, they use like logs and you can travel across the logs. So we could try that if you want to try your hand to draw on a log.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Another challenge. Okay, now you can see if you want to pause everyone at home, that's my blocks for what we just did in JavaScript. So if you were kind of feel like the JavaScript was kind of pushing you a little bit more and you want to just get comfortable with these things in blocks first and then toggle as you go, that's absolutely fine. So pause now, there's the block, we're all good. But we're going to go ahead now and we're going to go again and we're going to build out these logs that we can use to help Tweety get across the water. Okay, so we're thinking, Corey, our plan is we're going to have logs, kind of like the cars, we're going to have logs coming from the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the screen, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So let's go into, we're going to use our on-game update again, kind of used to this at this point. Just going to bring that one in. Okay, we have a lot of code going on now, so be a little bit slower potentially for me. I'm going to just move down. Okay, and we're going to go back into our percentage chance blocks. So we're kind of used to this now. So we're going to do our logic. We're going to do our if. And remember, percentage chance is maths. So we're going to go into our math area. And for our logs, Corey, we'll just, because these are actually helpful to us, we might give them a little bit of a higher percentage chance, maybe 50
definitely.
or 60 or...
Yeah, go with 60.
Go with 60.
Give us a
nice
good chance.
myself. Yeah, okay. Okay, so again, we're happy. So if there's a 60% chance then, so now we're going to have to set our sprite and kind of go back to what we would do all the time when we're creating our new sprites. So we're going to go into sprites. And we are going to set. Okay, and we're going to rename our sprite to be, my sprite to be log. I want to say okay. Now, we'll come back and draw this in a second, Corey, but we need to be careful here, don't we, with the kind?
Yeah,
so
I think...
Go on. Yeah,
I think we should probably create our own kind, because if you think about it, we already have enemies and the log isn't really an enemy because it's actually going to help us. So I'd go ahead and add a new kind.
It's not a food, it's not a projectile, and it's not the player. So we need to add a new kind. Yeah. And we'll just call it log, won't we? But you could call it transport. You could call it whatever. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So we have a new kind. So there's kind of a few steps there. Rename your variable and rename your kind. Okay, add your new kind. Now let's go in and draw it, or attempt to draw it. Corey, what way did you draw this now?
I just went like with the brown tile. Yeah, went all the way across and added a little bit of greenery at the end.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Okay. Just make it like look like a bit of grass.
Okay. Appreciate your guidance on this one.
No, they don't look great. So when you swap over to me in a minute, they won't be as good as yours, but sure look. No,
I'm sure they will be. We'll put a random spot here and there. Right, okay. Done. Right, okay. So we have set our sprite to be this, and remember we've changed its kind. We're happy enough. Now, we want this log to also be on our water, don't we, Corey? Like our blue tiles. So we're going to have to use our tile maps here. So we go into scene. And we're just going to need to basically give the line of code that says place this log on one of those tiles. So if we go down, we should see place. Here we go. Yeah. And we're going to grab that one and drop that in there. And obviously we're going to change that to log, and we're going to make sure that it is on top of our blue tile. Okay. Right, we're flying it. So that's good so far. Now we just need to do what we've done before with the other sprites, which is basically make sure they're entering the screen at the right area, they're at a certain speed, and all those things we just did a second ago in JavaScript actually for our enemy, but just this time it's the log. So we're going to go into sprites and we're going to do our velocity first. So we're going to bring this in. And we'll deal with the log from the left-hand side first, this side, Corey. What do you think? So we'll go from left to right. So we are going to go in to set our log again, velocity. And this time we are going from the left-hand side all the way to the right-hand side. So it's going to be increasing. It's going to be plus values. And I think we'll leave it at 50 actually. Yeah. But then Vy obviously remember is 0 because we're not dealing with the y-axis at all with this. Okay. We also want to make sure that it starts right at the edge of the screen. So we're going to go set its position as well. So we're going to go set this one here. We're going to sprites and we grab set my sprite X. I'm going to grab that one in. And this time we're saying log. And actually, we're going to leave it at 0 because remember, 0 is our very corner value over here for x. So 0 is all along here. So we're happy with 0, actually, I think. So we'll do that one. Okay, nearly there. So we want to do 2 more things. One is we want to make sure that, like we did with our other things, they destroy on the wall. But last week when we did the cars, we also looked at the Z-axis, didn't we, Corey?
Yes, we did.
And that was, do you want to explain to everyone again, just a quick recap, with what is the Z-axis?
Yeah, so we used the Z-axis when we were trying to make it look like the cars weren't crashing together, didn't we? We wanted to look like it was kind of an overlap, that one was going behind the other. So I think that would be a really good idea here to bring in the Z-axis.
Yeah, and it kind of, the Z, they have actually in brackets, it's the depth. So we have X and Y, obviously we know what they mean. The Z is that depth, which is what Corey is saying, gives us that little kind of imagery, I suppose, of an overlap kind of idea. Okay, so we'll do DestroyOnWall first real quick. So we'll set, and then we'll do our Z-axis. So we'll set our sprite, first of all, DestroyOnWall. So set log. And remember, we're going to just click our arrow here, DestroyOnWall, turn that on. And then one more line, and then maybe pause everyone and just make sure you're all good. So our final line is to do our Z-axis. So let's go in here, and we're just going to set this like we've done already with X, but now we're going to set Z instead, okay? Oh, that kind of rhymed, Z instead. Okay, right. Okay, so we are setting log, why is that? Oh yeah, there we go. And we click our arrow, everyone, and you see there's one of our options is our Z-axis, depth, as it says there. And last week what we used for the car, which actually worked perfectly, you could play around with this now, but what we saw worked pretty well was -1, wasn't it, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, so if everybody wants to pause there, that's our first, and we'll just check this. You can pause, and meanwhile, I'm going to just get Tweety on the move here. Oh, okay, there we go, lovely. Look, woohoo! Ah! So we have these weird looking water creatures that we'll call crocodiles coming across from the right-hand side. We have our logs coming from the left-hand side. So last thing before I hand you over to Corey is real quick, we are going to, we're going to get them just to come from the right-hand side of the screen. Now, Corey, for speed, because I'm looking at the time here, I might just duplicate the blocks here.
Yep.
But what people can do at home, guys, and like what I would encourage you to do, and I was going to do, but it would just take a bit longer, is to actually toggle to JavaScript now and try do the logs from the right-hand side across yourselves in JavaScript. But for speed, just to help us out here, because Corey has a good bit to cover with you as well. I'm going to just duplicate this, and we're going to just edit it in our blocks real quick. So will we leave it at 60%, Corey? Yeah.
Yeah. So. And then if we need to change it, if it's too easy, then we just change the percentage.
Well, I might actually do, I'll just change this to 50 because I think, just okay. So we have our log still, we still want to place it, but we're going to have to change a couple of things here, like velocity, aren't we? So this time, remember, it's coming from the right-hand side to the left, so it's going to be -50. Also, its set position at the beginning isn't going to be 0. We don't want it to start over here. We want it to start over here. And like we always do, we kind of make it start off the screen, so to speak. So we're going to set that to 200. And we are going to leave the rest the same. So literally all we're changing is our velocity and our starting position there, isn't it, Corey?
Yep.
So I'll just test this real quick and just make sure these are working. So I can see there's one that's after coming in from the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Perfect. Now there's not as much of a depth option there, Corey. Is that because I have depth in both?
I'm not sure. You could play around with it there, but I'm sure if you took away one.
Yeah, I might actually delete it out of the second one. It probably only needs to be slightly changed in one, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't do it. Yeah, we only done it for one of the cars, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I think.
Then, yeah, that makes sense.
They're still going at each other there. Oh, slight maybe difference. I could see a different bit of green. Anyway, we'll play around with that in a second. Okay, so if you guys want to pause there, again, you can toggle to JavaScript if you want and try that in JavaScript. Please do that because that would be great practice. But if not, you can throw them in the blocks the way I did there. And Corey, if you want to maybe bring us on now and think about, because we actually want these logs, we want Tweety to be able to land on these, don't we, to get across. So there's going to be a bit of code involved with that.
Right. Okay, let's do it. So I'm over here in JavaScript, so hopefully everyone can see. But one thing I did notice about the game, and we don't have it so far, is we actually have no like score or anything, don't we? Not like.
Oh yeah.
In the game, in Crocs, when you tap the screen, you get a point. So every time you go up, kind of, you get 1 point. So I'm thinking that we should say, like, on the when button A is pressed, we should change the score by 1. What do you think? Or 2?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But so what we need to do there is we need to look for our controller button. Okay. So I have commented my code here, so I know that this says controller.A. So I know that's when the A button is pressed. And we've said we want to change Tweety on Y, but we also want to add a score, okay? So I'm just going to give myself a little bit of room there. Now, how I know what code this is going to be in JavaScript is, where do we usually find score? Well, we usually find in info. So I'm going to type info and then a full stop. And I get all these options then. Change score by, change life by, and I know I want change score by. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to click on that and change score by 1. Okay, right. So that's pretty simple. That's pretty straightforward enough. Okay, another thing that we can do that I think is pretty fun is, like, if we have a countdown of some sort, because I know in the game Crossroads, if you spend too long not moving anywhere, so if you're like waiting for a log or you don't want to go across the road, and a bird comes down and captures you. But I think in here what we could do is we could just have a countdown, so that way we're still under time pressure, aren't we?
That's good, yeah.
But I need to think of where I'm going to put it, okay? And where I would usually put it is where, Amanda, if I'm doing a countdown?
Probably. I would do it the minute you start the game, maybe.
Exactly. So, but when I'm in JavaScript, I don't really know where start is. But what I do know is down here where we declare all our sprites, we usually do that at the start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chance my luck and I'm going to throw it in here. So what I need to say is info again, because remember countdown is in info. And I'm going to say start countdown. Now, how many seconds will I give us?
Oh God, 60, I think.
Yeah, give us 60. We'll need a minute. Okay, brilliant.
The other thing is, some people might decide, actually, Corey, to do it the minute they hit A first time. So when you hit A, it means you've just started to move.
Ah, that's a really good idea.
Starts. So there's different ways people could maybe do that, isn't there?
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. So you can see there, look, my score is going up and I can't go backwards. So now I'll have to wait for a log, okay? But one thing I want to do is there, if you can see, we have crocodiles and we have logs, but see the way the crocodiles and the logs are kind of overlapping with each other? I think personally that that shouldn't be allowed. I think that if a crocodile hits a log, the crocodile should be gone.
Ah,
that very cool. More of a chance as well, I think, because believe me, it's a pretty hard game. It took me ages to get past it. So what I need to do there is what? An overlap, isn't it? So I am going to go down to where I've used an overlap before, because my favorite thing to do is manipulate code. So let me see.
We used it with the car, didn't we? When Tweety overlapped with the car.
Yeah. So I'm actually just going to minimize this for a second. And here we are here, sprite overlap player with the enemy. So that the enemy is our Croc and our car. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to highlight that whole thing and I'm going to Control and C on my keyboard and give myself some space. And I'll comment and just say overlap with. Okay, now I need to be careful here. I don't want the game to be over if this happens. Okay, so I can get rid of that line of code. And here I have to be careful as well. Okay, because it's not sprite of kind player. I want the log to overlap with the enemy. And remember, we created a kind of log. So I think I called it log with a capital L, and I'll just have to double check that. Yep. So sprite kind of log overlaps the sprite kind of enemy. I want to destroy the crocodile, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Croc. Now I just have to make sure. I can't remember if I spelled it with a lowercase or lowercase. Croc destroy maybe. Let me see.
So sorry at home, if you've been following me at the start and you followed me exactly, I would have done Croc with a capital C. So maybe just whatever one you've done now, just remember if Corey's is lowercase, it's just because that's what she did at the start.
Exactly. I just went with lowercase c. So that's the only difference. So just be careful there with your spellings. So croc dot, and I'm going to say, we usually say destroy, don't we? Destroy sprite. So I'm going to, okay, destroy is there. And I'm going to destroy them with an effect. I'm going to say effect. Dot, and then I have all my effects. Okay, so we'll go with an ode to bubbles. What you think from our last game?
Good idea.
Now, there is a problem with this code. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is pause me and see if you can figure out what is actually wrong with it. Okay, and if you remember from all the other games, we never destroy the actual sprite, don't we not? We destroy the other sprite. Okay, but if I try to play my game here, it will probably give me an error, or probably won't work, because I haven't actually declared that other sprite is a type of sprite. Okay, because remember what you had to do with Croc earlier on? It is working, so maybe it's done it for me there automatically. Let's see. No, it should be there. That's strange. What I should have had to do is go let other sprite colon sprite equals null, but it's obviously recognizing it, which is good. So I think I am happy enough with that. We have our cars, we have our logs, we have our crocodiles. Our crocodiles are being destroyed when it hits a log, and oh, for some reason the crocodile didn't hit me there. That's strange. Oh, but the car did. So maybe if I just put in that block of code and see if it works. So let other sprite equals null. Maybe it was just that I didn't give the game enough time to load, but no, it's definitely right. And I'm getting my points.
Your countdown is on. Looks good.
Okay. So I did have to put in that block of code. Okay. So when you're doing your overlap, okay, we know that we say when log overlaps the enemy, we want to destroy the other sprite. Okay, but we never even created what the other sprite was. We never declared it. So there was a little bit of a bug. And the bug was that I had to put in this block of code. And I'm happy enough with that code for this week. Are you, Amanda?
Yeah, I think there's lots there. If people want to pause, make sure they're happy with it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Play the game. See how you get on, I suppose. And then as we go into next week, Corey, we're going to obviously get Tweety to travel across, aren't we, on the logs? Yeah. And also we talked about, just to make sure people don't think we've forgotten, last week there was a question about getting Tweety to fire projectiles. So we will do that, and we'll do that next week. So just in case people think that we've forgotten, that we haven't forgotten, we are going to add that to our game next week, as well as a few other really cool features. But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. I'm really liking it. We'll have to play next week, and you'll have to play it and I'll have to play it so you can get the highest score. Okay, I don't think that's going to be okay. So we have had a look at blocks and we've had a look at JavaScript, okay? But my favorite part of code, and Amanda will know this from college, she's probably sick of me talking about it, is binary code. It is kind of cool, I think, when you get the hang of this. It is. It's like a secret language, I think, isn't it? It's exactly cool. So what is it? Okay, so here you can see loads of ones and zeros and ones and zeros, and you might have seen them before, like if you ever hear people talking about coding or computers. And basically a binary number is made up of only ones and zeros, okay? And it's how the computers read code. So when we say, oh, set your background color to this, well, the computer's actually just reading that line as ones and zeros and ones and zeros, okay, which is mad, I think. And an example of a binary number is something like this here. So 10000101. And you're probably thinking, what is going on? Okay, but let's learn how we can actually translate binary numbers into decimal numbers. So let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so here we have find what the number 65 is in binary code. Okay, and we do this using our magic number line. That's what I call it. Okay, because it literally is. And you might notice about the magic number line that you start at 1 and you double. Okay, so 1 doubled is 2, and 2 doubled is 4, 4 doubled is 8, 8 doubled is 16, and so on. 32, 64, and then 128 is what you stop with. Okay, so you stop at 128. Now, we need to find what 65 is from these numbers.
Sorry, I think I dropped there for a second, did I?
Yeah, that's all right. No worries. So you're just saying
Just as I was getting into
65 is from these numbers.
Exactly. So I know 128 is too big, so I'm not going to use that. But we can use 100. We can use 64, can't we?
Yeah, that goes. I suppose you think about it as like it will go into 65, and then it will actually leave a number behind, so to speak. Yeah.
Exactly. And then 64. What other number can I add to that to give me what I need? Well, 1. Okay. So what we do then is wherever there's a black square, okay, it's a 1. And wherever there's a white square or just a blank square, it's a 0. So if I pop out of this now, I'm going to say, okay, well, this is 0 because I didn't use it. And I used this. And I didn't use this or this or this or this or this. And I used this one here. So 65 in binary code is literally 01000001. Okay, so let's try another one. Amanda, you can help me with this one here. Find what the number 20 is in binary code.
Okay, so obviously it's not going to be 128, so that's going to be off, isn't it? That's 0.
Yep.
64 isn't going to divide into 5, so that's 0. 32 is 0. 16 will go in. That's 1.
Yeah, so we'll give it 1.
And it's going to leave behind 4, isn't it? So 8, yes. No, 0. 4, yes. And then we're done.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to pop this here and this here. And 20 in binary code is then 00010100. Okay. And I'm going to leave this here, and you can pause the screen if you want to try this one at home. So try it on your own and see if you can get it. We're going to need 3 numbers to go into this one, okay? Now, as part of your home challenge, we are going to get you to crack the binary code, okay? So for example, here, okay, we have 011001110, okay? And that here, you're going to have to use the magic number line to actually figure out what is that number in decimals, okay? What is that number as a regular number? And it goes on all the way down, okay? So you see.
That's what it is.
Woohoo! It's a try at a love heart. Okay? So that is part of
binary code. This all makes sense now.
Oh, I love it so much, okay? So as part of your home challenge then, using binary digits, can you complete the Crack the Code worksheet? Okay, so that's going to be on the Wakelet. And then can you spell your name using binary code? And don't worry, there's help with this on the worksheet, okay? So well done everyone for all your hard work. We're going to be here again next week at the same time for our last one.
I can't believe it's the last one. And yeah, that I suppose is up. If the link is there for the Wakelet, Corey, I'm not sure, but the HomeSpace files, people are probably used to it by now. We had it at the start. So yeah, those worksheets are up there ready for you to have a good attempt. While this is fresh in your head, go and have a shot. And then, yeah, next week, last and final hurrah. But hopefully everyone will have enough knowledge now to make lots of deadly games themselves without us kind of guiding them.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll have a look at through some other kind of courses and stuff that they can do to keep themselves busy. But for now, that's it. See you next week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.